Forget the fairy tales. The history of queens is not written with tiaras and castles, but with blood, poison, rigged trials, and obsessions that pushed them to the limit. The throne was never a velvet seat, it was a battlefield. Today on Herstory, we are going to unearth the 7 most scandalous and controversial queens in history. Women who defied the norms of their time and whose legacies were intentionally tarnished by rumors of lust, madness, and cruelty. From the Gothic terror of a murderous countess to the passionate drama that shook Rome and the royal whim that ended in a beheading. These women not only made history, they rewrote the rules of the game, no matter the cost. Buckle up, because the truth is much darker than the legend. Anne Boleyn, Anne Boleyn, the queen who lost her head over a bed. Her arrival at the Tudor court was a genuine revolution. Anne went from mistress to wife, but only after Henry VIII shattered his marriage to Catherine of Aragon and, more gravely, broke with the Church of Rome. It wasn't about love, but about a male heir. And Anne, by failing to quickly provide one, became an obstacle. Divorce was not an option for an impatient king. The only way out for Henry was death. The lurid core of the accusation was clear: high treason, adultery with 5 men, and most scandalously, incest with her own brother, George Boleyn. Show how she was used as a scapegoat. The accusations were absurd, the lovers were tortured. The trial was a judicial farce, a macabre theater to justify the king's will. Anne Boleyn did not die for being unfaithful. She died for failing to give the king a son. Narrate the chilling coldness of her execution. Henry, in an act of questionable mercy, spared her from the English axe, and she had to pay for the French executioner herself, an expert swordsman. Her life ended on the scaffold, but her daughter, Elizabeth I, would inherit a kingdom and become her final revenge. Joanna I of Castile. Joanna I of Castile, known to history as Joanna the Mad, introduced Joanna as a woman intensely in love with Philip the Handsome, a man who was not faithful to her. But her jealousy was not a simple neurosis. It was an unrestrained passion, the lurid nature of obsession. When Philip died in 1506, Joanna refused to be separated from his body. The queen, who slept with her husband's corpse. Narrate the famous and spine-chilling journey with the casket across Castile. Detail how she would order the coffin open just to look at him, the macabre morbidness. Was this extreme grief misinterpreted by history, or a political act to prevent others from touching the remains of the legitimate king? The political gaslighting. Her father Ferdinand of Aragon, and later her son Charles V, needed the throne for themselves. Argue that Joanna's madness was conveniently exaggerated and used to justify her political confinement for 46 years in Tordesillas. She was the legitimate queen, but she was erased from the map. Her story is the morbid intrigue of dynastic politics and a victim of male ambition for power. Lucrezia Borgia. Lucrezia Borgia, the Pope's daughter, the sexual and political pawn of the most infamous family in history. The Borgias are synonymous with immorality. Lucrezia, as the daughter of Pope Alexander VI and sister of Cesare, was at the center of the intrigue, a victim yet also a potential accomplice. Detail the quick marriages and divorces, always based on her father's alliances. Mention the darkest rumors that have haunted her name: incest. Was the child she had truly her father's, the Pope, or her brother Cesare's? The morbidness of total corruption in the church and the use of women as mere political commodities. Mysteries and deaths. Discuss the deaths that surrounded the Borgias, such as that of her brother Juan de Gandia, who was found dead in the Tiber River. Who killed him? Sow doubt about her role in the court. Was she an unscrupulous poisoner, or simply a used and maligned girl who bore the brunt of her family's black legend? Marie Antoinette. Marie Antoinette, the queen of waste who paid for her luxury with her head. Introduce her as an influencer of the time, obsessed with fashion, extravagant hairstyles, and parties. The morbidness of excessive luxury. But more than wasteful, she was a foreigner, Austrian, deeply disconnected from her people. The diamond necklace scandal. Narrate in detail the affair of the necklace, a millionaire fraud devised by third parties, but which made her appear criminal to the French people. She was innocent of the theft, but the press and public hatred condemned her. Her famous apocryphal quote, "Let them eat cake," became the battle cry of the people, the climax of humiliation. The monarchy was overthrown, the arrest, the loss of her son, and the final march to the guillotine. Describe her dignity on the way to execution, a public and dramatic death that served as a lesson to all of Europe. Not even royal blood could save you from the fury of the masses. Cleopatra. Cleopatra Sesvand, the seductress who used sex to halt an empire. Show the Roman version, a fatal, vicious, and immoral woman who manipulated great generals. But the reality is that she was a brilliant strategist. Narrate her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. Emphasize that it wasn't just beauty. In fact, her coins don't show her as an ideal of beauty, but a strategist who used her intelligence, 9 languages, and charisma as a political weapon to save her kingdom from Roman annexation. The fall came with Mark Antony's defeat. Show how Roman historians, the victors, demonized her to justify the conquest of Egypt. Her legendary end with the asp, an Egyptian cobra. Discuss whether it was an act of love or a final move to avoid being humiliated in a triumphal parade in Rome, laden with gold chains before Octavian. Catherine the Great. Catherine the Great. Enlightened monarch or murderous nymphomaniac? Her rise to power. Explain how she went from an insignificant German princess to the great Tsarina of Russia. She married a man, Peter III, who was unstable and despised her. Her only path to power was the coup d'etat of 1762. The coup was swift, but what happened to Peter III? The death of Peter III. Did he die in a drunken brawl, or was he assassinated by Catherine's order? The morbidness of regicide in her own palace. Catherine suddenly found herself with absolute power, and then the legendary sex life. Discuss the 21 favorites, or lovers who passed through her bed, often young men whom she showered with wealth. Debunk the horse legend, the most infamous myth, showing how foreign propaganda demonized her to belittle her female power in a male-dominated world. She reigned and loved as she pleased. Queen 7, Elizabeth Báthory. Elizabeth Báthory, the Blood Countess, the cruelest woman in history, a figure who seems pulled from Gothic fiction. Begin with the most famous and disturbing myth, the murder of hundreds of young women to bathe in their blood and achieve eternal youth. Morbidness in its purest state. Rely on the real testimonies that did exist about tortures, needles, punishments for sadistic pleasure, and the use of black magic. Show the horror of what happened in her castle, with hundreds of victims, mainly young peasant women and servants. She was a royal serial killer. However, in the end, the trial had political motives. The political deception. Explain that her cousin, the Palatine, arrested her at a time of financial need. Ask how much of the legend was inflated to justify the king seizing her vast properties. Conclusion. She was a real murderer, no doubt. But the Gothic myth made her immortal, a figure whose legend of blood and terror continues to fascinate more than 4 centuries later. These 7 women show us that female power, in any era, was feared. History, written by men and victors, often resorted to the lurid sex, betrayal, madness, to explain and sometimes justify their downfall. They used scandals to reduce these leaders to simple evil or mad women. But deep down, they were simply human beings with unimaginable power, who fought tooth and nail against a system that did not want women on the throne. Their legacy continues to be a debate about power, gender, and historical truth. Which of these stories did you find most shocking? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey through dark Herstory, subscribe for more.